Hello, YouTube. Um, t- Today we're going to talk about Marvel, specifically what is the worst MCU film. This is something that kind of trended on Twitter for a couple days. Someone posted that they thought Captain Marvel was the worst MCU movie, and that tweet kind of got a lot of traction, and a lot of people responded to it, mostly with their own opinions of what the worst MCU movie is. And the two ones that kind of were brought to the forefront as the worst were was Thor: The Dark World and Iron Man 3. So we'll probably start talking about those films. Are either of those your worst Marvel movie?
Oh yeah, Thor 2.
Okay, so we'll start with Thor 2, and I'll let you take the lead if you just want to talk a little bit about what you don't like about Thor: The Dark World.
I don't know, I feel like Thor is one of my favorite MCU characters. Like,
Sure.
I just really like him. And somehow that movie just manages to make him ungodly boring. It's such a drag. Nothing of consequence actually happens. It's just boring.
Yeah, I think that's why that's the one that is the most popular to be the least favorite, is because it's the least memorable of the Marvel movies. It's the one that is the most in one ear, out the other. You see it once and you're not really going to remember what happened. And that's actually worse for me, because when we saw it the one time in theaters, I don't know if I've seen it since.
Oh yeah, we saw it in 3D.
We saw it in 3D.
The early, yeah.
So that we could, because if you saw it in 3D, you got a bonus scene from Winter Soldier, which hadn't come out yet.
Yeah.
And I was dumb, and instead of just putting the 3D glasses on top of my glasses, I just took my glasses off and then put the 3D glasses on. The problem is that the villain doesn't speak English.
You couldn't read the subtitles.
And the entire movie's subtitled. So I'm still not 100% sure what that character was about, but I don't think I missed anything.
Dumb. Stupid.
It's an easy to glean plot regardless.
Yeah, it was
There's
just
a stone.
Bad guy
wants
the
stone. Yeah, bad guy wants the stone. Got to get the stone. Which I think
I
that's...
don't even think he was associated with Thanos. I'm
No.
pretty sure he was just a completely and totally separate dude that just wanted the stone for a completely and totally different reason.
Yes, it had something to do with Odin. Like there was a backstory with Odin where they had fought like years and years. So it's the Frost Giant story combined with the stone.
Okay, so it's pretty much, hey, the Frost Giants, but this time they want a rock.
Yeah, that's not really a rock, because it's kind of...
It's dust. Woo. They want to huff it out of a bag like paint.
Yes, that's exactly what the plot of Thor: The Dark World is.
Yeah.
I think that's the big disappointment. It's called The Dark World, and that title, you're like, yeah, that sounds sick. It's just a desert. It's a desert.
Yeah, there's not really a dark world.
It's just the desert.
Yeah.
I hated that.
Yeah.
That, it's actually not my least favorite. I think it kind of just depends how you look at it. Because for a lot of people, bad is the absence of anything. So something that's not memorable and bland is way worse than being like memorably bad.
Yeah, like Troll 2 bad.
Yeah, and a lot of people can get more behind that than something that's boring and stale.
Yeah.
And we'll transition from that to Iron Man 3, because that's one that actually stands out in people. That's not one that's bland. That movie makes a story decision that upset people.
Yeah, I feel like the movie around, like, the weird Mandarin fake out was fine. I liked it. It was an Iron Man movie. It's just like, the second they make that switch, it's just kind of like, oh, this is insufferable now. Like, it just kind of starts to suck.
I actually do like the idea of the fake out. I like the social commentary of the Mandarin is presented as a very racist, typical of what we see terrorist as.
Right, yeah.
And then the reveal is, no, the actual villain is this dude in your backyard
Yeah.
who is kind of playing on people's fear to manipulate them. Like, that's an interesting idea, and I like all that. The problem, I think, is that character, Killian, he needs to be interesting for that to work.
Yeah.
And especially because you had Ben Kingsley. Sorry.
He's just kind of mad that, like, Tony.
It's the Riddler. It's Jim Carrey Riddler.
Yeah, it's just Jim Carrey Riddler.
Like, it's even like the same wig and stuff. And that's made worse when the fake Mandarin is played by Ben Kingsley, who's really charismatic and he's got a lot of presence as an actor. And then we lose him, and we get this kind of just bland white guy. And he's like fine, like nothing against that guy. Yeah. But it's a really unmemorable character. Yeah. And it's not really fun to watch Robert Downey Jr. like spar with him. Like, there's no dynamic there. Yeah. Which is a consistent problem with the Iron Man movies. And really just all Marvel movies.
I thought the Killmonger fight was fun. The one at the end of the first movie?
That guy's name isn't Killmonger. That's Black Panther.
The end of the first Iron Man?
That's not Killmonger.
That's
the Ironmonger.
Ironmonger.
Who's Killmonger?
Killmonger. Is that Black Panther?
No.
That might be Black Panther.
Michael B. Jordan's character.
Yeah.
His name isn't Killmonger, is it?
I think it
That's
might be.
That's a terrible name.
I think it might
I always just think of him as Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah.
He's the best Marvel villain, weirdly, so it's kind of weird that I can't think of his name.
That's what we should have talked about in this video. Fucking Marvel villains. Jesus Christ.
That is...
Yeah.
And that actually... We can use that to transition to what is my least favorite. Because mine's is a hot take, a controversial one. My least favorite is Infinity War. I hate Infinity War so much.
You want to get cyberbullied, don't you?
Kind of. I think it's really, really bad. That is the only MCU movie that I think is genuinely bad. Because all the other ones, that even if I don't like them, it's usually just kind of like, like they're okay, or just kind of...
You don't even remember Thor the Dark World, so you can't really say, it's okay. You don't know what happened in it.
But it never really, like, nothing in it, like, really, like, bothered me or felt was, like, awful. It's just kind of what we were talking about earlier. It's just bland and forgettable. Yeah. And some of the other ones I've disliked, there might be something that I liked in them that kind of redeemed it. So, like, I'm not a huge fan of Spider-Man Homecoming, but that movie still has Michael Keaton's Vulture. So that one, like, I don't totally dislike. Infinity War is the one that I just, top to bottom, just, I hate it. I hate it so much.
Yeah, there were a lot of things that really kind of bothered me.
And the big thing, just to keep on the villains, a lot of what doesn't work about that movie is Thanos, because they decided to make him the main character, which I get.
Which is interesting.
Because it's that, or you have 100 main characters, and what do you do with that?
Yeah, not much.
Because Endgame's easier because you killed everybody off. You only have to worry about the main team of Avengers.
Yeah.
But in Infinity War, you have everybody, and everybody has to do something.
Yep.
So instead, they made it from Thanos' point of view, which is a good idea, but Thanos isn't interesting. I don't think.
Yeah,
I think Thanos...
They tried to make him, like, really sympathetic and, like, oh, you should, like, kind of be on Thanos' side instead of just making him nuts. Just make him crazy and fun to watch.
Well, see, the thing is that they're kind of doing both. Because I could go with sympathetic Thanos. That could be interesting. And there's one scene where they could have turned me around and they ruin it. Because he is just nuts. Yeah. He is just a crazy person. His plan is dumb. His motivations are... He doesn't have motivation. He's just crazy. Yeah. But they play it like there's something really going on there. They play it like Killmonger. Yeah. I do think that is his name.
Yeah, but it is Killmonger. Yeah.
Who really was, that character really was sympathetic and really human. You really could understand and get behind him even though he's doing bad things. Yeah. Thanos, you can't. And the one scene where they completely kill it, it's the scene between him, Thanos, and Doctor Strange. When Thanos sort of explains his backstory, and he's like, my planet once flourished, but then it died, and so this is why I'm on this mission, and that's where it could have worked, because you could have made him a parallel to Tony Stark, and you make him a scientist or something who is investing in clean energy and all that kind of stuff, and he actively used science to try and save the planet and failed.
Yeah.
And that failure, losing his entire planet and assumedly his entire race, breaks his mind.
Yeah.
And that's what leads him to crazy kill half the population plan. That could have worked. What it is, and what he tells Doctor Strange, is that the planet was dying, and he went to the leaders and was like, yo, let's kill half the population. And the leaders went, that's nuts. So he went, oh, that's kind of mean. And that's it.
Yeah.
He was already crazy before his big tragedy happened. He was already
nuts.
And it's just so generic and easy, and I don't like. And then that movie, beyond Thanos being, I think, a really terrible villain, is just so needlessly kind of morose and dark, which I'm okay with, but it's so gimmicky.
Yeah.
Because it's just gonna all be reversed next movie, and so it's hard to really feel like the dark kind of things it's doing.
Yeah. I think Infinity War definitely gets a little bit better after you watch Endgame, because some of the more permanent stuff that happens.
Endgame made some of it better for me.
Yeah.
Because the 5-year thing, that was really clever.
Yeah.
Of okay, yes, everybody's back, but the characters that survived still had to live those 5 years without their friends.
Yeah.
That was a good choice, but that, to me, is a compliment towards Endgame.
Yeah.
Infinity War still feels really gimmicky. I think it doesn't earn the emotional kind of payoffs that it's trying to go for, because in my opinion, I like the Russo brothers kind of less and less every time they direct one of these, because I do think they really get Cap and they really get Tony and some of the supporting characters involved with them, but they struggle with literally everybody else, and they don't really give them time to develop. But then they expect payoffs. Like the big emotional payoff of Infinity War is Scarlet Witch having to kill Vision.
Yeah.
Which, okay, I like those characters, but that's me wanting to like those characters because I like those actors and I like those comics.
Right.
But the movies, specifically their movies, do very little to set that relationship up.
Yeah.
So when you start Infinity War and they're just a couple, and Madly in Love's where'd this come from? Last time we saw them in Civil War, they were kind of fighting to the death, and they were kind of flirting in that one.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And there's a lot like that in Infinity War.
I get what you're saying.
The Guardians, I hate. They don't know what to do with the Guardians,
yeah.
which is why they all die, except for Rocket.
Because
they don't know what to do with them.
Yeah.
And I think the Peter Gamora stuff I think is really, really bad. And Thanos' relationship with Gamora and Nebula, I don't think that's consistent with what we saw in the Guardians films and what we saw when we were in Gamora's eyes or Nebula's eyes.
Right.
I don't think they're consistent with that, and that whole I hate throwing Gamora off the cliff and the whole he loved her. Oh, I hate all of that.
Yeah.
So that's my rant on Infinity War.
Yeah.
Are there any others that stand out as, even if they're not your worst ones, that maybe you don't like? Before we end,
that's not really that stand out. I think a lot of Marvel movies just kind of rely on the same kind of formula, so they're all kind of starting to blend together for me at this point.
Sure.
So really, I don't really have any least favorites. I have a couple of favorites, Thor Ragnarok was dope.
Yeah.
I really like Black Panther. I like the ones that kind of switch up the formula and isn't just bland.
Have a bit more style to them. The Guardians films,
Guardians.
Volume 2, I think especially.
Yeah.
And Panther is my favorite of them. Ragnarok's up there. I think Guardians 2.
Yeah.
Some of the earlier ones, because they hadn't quite got to the formula.
Yeah.
So the first kind of set, it's when they get to the Avengers.
Yeah.
And Joss Whedon wrote and directed that. Mm-hmm. And then someone at Marvel must just really like how Joss Whedon writes, which I do too.
Yeah.
Because every movie is that.
Yeah.
They're always trying to get that humor and his sensibility into it, which is where that kind of the quipping kind of conversation comes from, that everyone's just constantly quipping. And that's just kind of how Whedon writes, and he does it really well.
Yeah.
And when people who aren't as good at it try it, that's when stuff kind of comes.
It gets
Yeah, and there are times when that's appropriate, and there are times when it's like, shut up. Jesus Christ.
Hey, a character is dying. Maybe don't be making a joke right now.
Yeah. Before we end, I will touch on Captain Marvel a little bit, because it kind of ties in what you were saying. You still haven't seen that, right?
No, I haven't.
It is, to me, the tweet that started it, I do think was kind of trolling a bit by saying Captain Marvel, which is why it got the response it did. I do think it is really, really silly to the people that overly criticize Captain Marvel. And I know why they do it is because they disagree with Brie Larson's politics, or just they have their own kind of messed up thing. But that it's a Marvel movie. If you generally like them, you're gonna like Captain Marvel. If you're kind of over it at this point, you might not love it, but like, it's not a bad movie. Right. It's fine. And I see a lot of criticisms thrown at that movie that maybe it does deserve. The villains are underdeveloped. It's a little bland. Honestly, I think
every Marvel movie.
I think less so than other Marvel movies. Honestly, I think those directors were trying to make it more like a 90s action movie, because it's set in that time period.
Right.
Carol feels like a Bruce Willis kind of character.
Right.
I think it stands out more than people give it credit for. But like, obviously, it's not free of criticism like anything, but I do think a lot of what it gets is stuff that applies to literally every other movie.
Yeah.
And there are people who pick on this one and act like this movie is the worst thing ever.
Just because they don't like Brie Larson.
Or, and that's pretty much it. And so I think it's really silly to kind of throw Captain Marvel under the bus as somehow the worst of cinema.
I just still haven't seen it because I've just been over the Marvel movie formula for a little bit.
No, and that's fair.
Like, I saw Endgame and I was like, cool, I don't have to watch anymore.
Yeah, and that is kind of the weird thing.
I do want to see, but Black Widow seems like it could be interesting.
If we ever get to see it now.
Yeah,
stuck inside forever.
Yeah, it may just not come out.
Spider-Man was the second Spider-Man was good, but yeah, it is weird.
I didn't hate Homecoming.
I didn't hate it either. Yeah. But it is weird post Endgame. And then they announced all these projects, and it's like, we're still going.
Yeah.
And some of them I'm excited about. I'm excited for the Disney Plus stuff.
Because it's literally called End Game, but the game's not ending.
Like, literally 2 characters ended. Captain America and Tony Stark.
Yeah.
That's it. Everybody else is still going. Ad nauseum until it stops making money. I guess.
Which is never the same thing with Star Wars. They're just going to keep cranking them out until they stop making money.
Well, Solo didn't make money. Oh, I guess that stopped the anthology films.
Yeah.
So we're just going to get Disney Plus stuff for a while.
Yeah, we're just getting Disney Plus stuff for anthology, and then we're going to get trilogies out the wazoo.
Everybody gets a trilogy. Yeah. Except the Game of Thrones guys, because I don't know what happened there. Game of Thrones season 8 happened.
The season 8 happened.
Yeah, we're getting a little sidetracked, so I'll go ahead and cut it off here. Thank you for watching. Comment below. Let us know what you think of the MCU, what you think the worst one is, what you think the best one is.
Thor 2.
Thor 2's the best one?
Yeah.
Hit all the buttons that you're supposed to hit. I already said comment, but go ahead and subscribe. There's a bell that's supposed to be hit. Go ahead and hit that, whatever that does.
Do you actually not know what that does?
No, don't.
It's notifications, so you get notified every time they upload.
Well, but then what's the subscription button for?
Yes.
Okay, whatever. Hit the bell. Hit the subscribe. Just hit all the buttons. It's fine. Thank you for watching.
Not the dislike button, though. That's a bad button. Don't hit that button.
Bye.